all of that. All right, friends. So, welcome to the Moss Method Masterclass, right? The 2026 Wu Wei inspired edition, How to Build a Financially Secure, Life-Affirming Business Amidst Systemic Chaos. I'm Eden, and I'm a holistic business teacher and coach. I'm a trauma of money facilitator and a digital marketer. And for the past 12, 15 years or so, I've helped purpose-driven people, therapists, birth workers, farmers, herbalists, coaches, consultants, folks doing some of the most healing, regenerative, raddest, coolest work in this world, build actual profitable, sustainable businesses without burning out and without selling out without compromising their values, right? And I've also had the honor and pleasure and privilege of living into my own easeful, sustainable six figures reality for several years now in a very stable way on about 20 to 25 hours a week without dancing for tricks on Instagram, doing work that I love with people that I believe are making the world a better place. And today I look forward to supporting each and every one of you in finding your pathway towards your most joyful, easeful, financially secure, and purpose-aligned life that is indeed your birthright, right? Systemic dumpster fire aside. All right, my friends. So, oops, I was supposed to share that slide, but that's a little bit about me. So where we're at right now, right? So it doesn't take a predictive historian to see how this country's systems, which for the past century or a little bit more has served as this shining example of what a developed nation looks like, right? An economic superpower. It doesn't take a predictive historian to see how, seemingly, like every empire before it, we are deteriorating under the weight of ourselves, right, here in America, right? So, a little snapshot of where we're at. Since the pandemic, the wealth gap has widened faster than any time in modern history, right? So, you're not imagining it. Very real economic shifts have been happening. Definitely accelerated in the past 5 years. Billionaires have added trillions, while, of course, regular folks' savings got decimated. The top 1% now hold more wealth than the entire middle class combined. Consumer costs are up like 23% on average since the pandemic, right? Which puts such a strain on small businesses. Meanwhile, wages barely budge and the job market is at a standstill, right? And through AI, our pace and our productivity is accelerating. We're 47% more productive than previous generations, and yet workers earn less on every dollar than ever before, right? Our health and our food systems create more illness than any other comparative nation. We are force-fed an endless attention economy on tiny screens, on big screens, running in the background of our lives, disconnecting us from nature, our bodies, each other. And of course, our loneliness and anxiety is skyrocketing. And scientists say that we have like less than 5 years to limit global warming and avoid catastrophic climate impacts. Yet we're still carrying on with business as usual, like the house isn't actively on fire, right? So if it all feels like an impossible trap, it is, right? And from this frame, the idea and the concept of throwing your weight behind your fledgling, purpose-driven small business might seem more like a symbolic final act or a Hail Mary than an actual solid strategy. But as one of my favorite philosophers, Bayo Akomolafe, shares, our work is to make sanctuary. So today I'm going to show you about why investing in your own values aligned business might just be the most financially stable, life affirming, and responsible move that you can make right now. And one that so many ancestors before us have historically made, especially amidst systemic chaos. All right. So I invite us to, we're going to zoom out a little bit into a far more ancient lens to begin. Hence, moss, right? So I'm inspired by moss endlessly because right now, here in upstate New York, buried under like 3 feet of snow, is the most gorgeous, vibrant, thriving carpet of moss in the woods right here. Moss stays low to the ground. Moss grows slowly. It does its thing, safe from the elements, virtually unnoticed, not a target, not fighting for scraps, not competing by growing bigger or faster, but taking the shape of opportunity, serving as verdant sanctuary while the woods around it might get parched or frozen or storm damaged. Moss thrives quietly in corners, right? Moss is my favorite archetype for equitable business growth. And I'm deeply inspired, of course, by Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer, who is an indigenous scientist who practices right up here in upstate New York, Haudenosaunee territory. She says, mosses show us another way. The abundance that emanates from self-restraint, from enoughness, right? Excuse me. Mosses show us another way. The abundance that emanates from self-restraint, from enoughness. Mosses have lived too long on this planet to be seduced by the nonsense of accumulation, the delusion of permanence, or the endless striving for productivity, right? She continues, when times are tough, mosses simply stop growing and wait until water returns. They don't die, they just crinkle up and pause, following the rhythms of life, following the rhythms of the natural world, growing in periods of abundance and waiting through periods of scarcity, a wise strategy for life that is in tune with uncertainty. And here's what really gets me, right? She says, mosses are not good competitors at all. And yet they are the oldest plants on the planet. They have persisted here for 350 million years because of their ability to cooperate with one another, to share the limited resources that they have, and to really give a lot more than they take. Mosses build soil and purify water, right? So, I know this might seem a little abstract to some of you who are like, I'm just trying to figure out how to grow a profitable, sustainable business, right? But this frame has actually been deeply supportive for me and so many solopreneurs inside of New Money Social Club. When I was first building my business, the truth is, I felt all wrong, right? Maybe you might feel this way sometimes too. My colleagues and the people around me were seemingly zipping past me, scaling quickly, doubling their rates, posting a lot, growing followings, launching constantly, doing a lot. And I knew as a digital marketer what I should be doing to grow my business. I was teaching this stuff after all. But my body, when it came to my business, my body kept me humbled through its honest, energetic pace. And so while the world zipped around me, I had no choice but to instinctually grow slowly. A decade later, over a decade later, I look around and see how many of those very same colleagues and dear friends have burnt out, have broken down, have pivoted, have started over multiple times. And there's nothing wrong with that journey, but it takes a lot of energy. Meanwhile, I'm still here. My business is still here, and the businesses that I work with are still here. And we're compounding in value and ease and relationships and abundance year after year. So if you found yourself consistently falling short on the fast growth trajectory, you might be a mossy type too. And that is not a failure. Actually, embracing that about yourself and your business growth trajectory might just be the assignment here, right? So many of us are drawn to more holistic paths. I saw somebody share that they're creating a sourdough bakery, right? Talk about slow fermentation methods, right? And so this is the world that I come from, my healers, my creatives, my holistic minded folks. And then when it comes to building our business, right, we kind of can get all tight and performative and feel like we need to take a different shape. We need to, follow those digital marketing steps and basically become a totally different person. And that might work for some of us. We all have growth edges, and I encourage you to be open to yours. But what I want to communicate here today is that the truth is, what I'm going to share of what has helped me and so many other solopreneurs actually be on that path towards profitable sustainability, towards ease and abundance, is not some new framework you need to learn as much as it likely is a permission giving and an allowing and a remembering for some of these inner ways of knowing that you've already picked up along the way that has already guided why you're making sourdough bread in the first place, right? Why you're offering a holistic health approach in the first place, right? So as Bayo Akomolafe also says, the times are urgent. We must slow down, right? So if we don't want to just reproduce patterns of harm in business and in our lives and in the world, the times are urgent and it's time to slow down, right? So, just to start, another underlooked example of equitable, reciprocal, mutual flourishing small business economics, right, is the ancient marketplace, right? Pardon me while I just mute folks. I think if you can check and see if you are on mute, if you're not already, if you can mute yourself, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so where was I? Right. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. We really don't, right? It's not your success, your profitable, sustainable business success is not going to come from some flashy new strategy that somebody invented, right? And so we can actually look at these more ancient models of equitable, reciprocal exchange and sustainability, right? And so go into any country in the world, hopefully in your own hometown in some way, and you will find a farmer's market. You will find a mercado, you will find a Chinese market, you'll find a souk, you'll find an African market. You will find a place where people, the global majority, has been peddling their goods in an equitable, respectful, life-affirming exchange with one another and the planet day after day, week after week for thousands of years. And I share this, and by the way, this has been inspired by an early member of New Money Social Club, Taylor Shirley of the Heritage Project. But I share this because many of the answers that we're seeking, right, will have us always on a hunt for that next strategy. And like I mentioned, it's more about tuning. I want to give you permission to tune into, like, we know this stuff actually. Like, this isn't some foreign language that we need to learn how to be in equitable relationship with the earth and each other, and exchange money back and forth, right? There's actually a blueprint that is highly sustainable because it actually serves the global majority. Whereas the stock market actually, only directly impacts about 20 to 25% of the global population. 60% of the global workforce, 2 billion people actually are earning their living from a more informal economy, right? So, I just was processing a beautiful video about somebody who was just talking about like refusal of the dominant kind of narrative that we're being fed right now, that AI is taking over, blah, blah, blah. And also the refusal to contextualize yourself only within the growth or the ups and downs of a stock market, when really at our very fingertips and our very relationships and our very communities, we have so much power here, and we always have, right? So on that note, when it comes to entrepreneurship, because the idea here is that when you are on the path towards building your own profitable, sustainable, values-driven business, you're going to feel like a bit of a weirdo, right? Like, not so many people become entrepreneurs or solopreneurs. And so you have to have a lot of belief in yourself and belief that this is possible. And for me, at least historically, the way that I would, when I first started walking on the entrepreneurial path, a lot of the content that I consumed were these like, white dude entrepreneurs who were like, yeah, jump out of the airplane with no parachute. You just got to go for it, blah, 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 no safety net. And it just wasn't as realistic for me, right? So it's hard for me to believe and see myself in that model. And so the idea is that it is, and it can be a lonely and harrowing journey, and it can be overwhelming and it can be difficult. And hopefully what we share today will help you navigate that landscape a little bit with a little bit more ease and alignment. But the idea, and what I want you to remember, is that entrepreneurship, like especially for marginalized people, is one of the most viable, historically data-backed pathways to economic stability. A population who by nature is dealing with systemic uncertainty, right? So for instance, immigrants make up 21.7% of all business owners, despite only being 13.6% of the population, right? Self-employed families have a median net worth that is 4 times larger than working families, right? And of the 13% of the population who actually finds a way to successfully exit poverty, 51%, the majority, do it by creating additional income streams, right? So not for waiting for that promotion, not by waiting for somebody to increase your wage, but by building something new, All right. And so the data actually underscores in many ways that building your own lean, optimized, profitable, sustainable, solopreneurial, purpose-driven business is and always historically has been actually one of the most viable ways to get out of poverty, to make any actual advances economically in your life, right? One more quick little framing here that must be shared, especially during Black History Month. I think my teachers, who were incredible, Dr. Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, Dr. Margaret Wade Lewis, who taught me that about Black Wall Street, right? So in the Reconstruction era, shortly after slavery was officially abolished, and just before racists came and kind of destroyed a lot of their efforts, in that 10-year period of time, about from 1865-ish to 1877, a bunch of Black Americans gathered in, well, all around the country, but in this one particular example, Greenwood, Tulsa, which was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and put their money together and put their entrepreneurship together. And during that time, that 10-year period, Black per capita wealth tripled from 1860 to 1870. Black wealth grew 2.5 times faster than white wealth during this period. A dollar circulated 19 times in Greenwood before leaving the community, compared to 1 to 2 times in a typical American community, right? So the pattern, I'm sorry, one quote from the author of The Color of Money: Black Wall Street wasn't an anomaly, it was proof of concept. Okay, so I share these to satisfy that skeptical dad or whatever voice, patriarchal voice in your head that says that you can't do this, that this isn't practical, this isn't reasonable. And I share these examples to remind you that actually you're standing on a legacy of the only ways that folks ever found financial sovereignty, especially amidst systemic chaos, right? In a values-driven way, right? So solopreneurship has historically been, and entrepreneurship has historically been utilized by people at the receiving end of the most systemic adversity, and wherever they've been allowed to build for a moment, they've thrived. It's not just viable, it's powerful, it's proven, and it's one of the most reliable pathways out of poverty we have, right? Okay, and then the final ancient framing that we are walking into this masterclass with, right, is the Taoist concept of Wu Wei, right? So full disclaimer, totally not a Taoist teacher. I do teach at a school with some of them, but I teach the money and business module. But the idea is this, right? So for years, as mentioned, I felt like I was doing everything wrong in business, not because things weren't working, but because they weren't working as drastically or as quickly as the influencers that I saw around me were saying that theirs was working, right? So I watched colleagues launching multiple times a year, posting daily, scaling aggressively, and I just couldn't. And I didn't want to keep up. I just couldn't. I was stubbornly slow and deeply observant, right? I needed to kind of wait for the right time. And I needed to do it in a way that felt safe enough for me, financially, in all the ways, right? And so I felt like there was some sneaky, persistent block that I needed to heal in order to make progress here. I felt like there was something wrong with me. But of course, over a decade later, I realized that so much of what I thought was wrong with me or my business was actually just my inner wisdom unconsciously aligning with, the most ancient forces in the universe, the life force energy of nature, the Wu Wei, if you will, right? To bring me towards my highest success just on its own timeline and in its own way, right? So as Lao Tzu, the originator of the Wu Wei concept, writes, nature never hurries, yet it's always on time, right? So Wu Wei is the Tao of effortless power. It's the ancient art of doing less and achieving more, essentially working with the forces of nature instead of against them, right? As Dale Davidson of the Ancient Wisdom Project shares, to be an entrepreneur in the American mindset is to force change to happen. Whereas a Taoist might say, perhaps the reason entrepreneurship is so difficult is because entrepreneurs are trying to work against the Tao, trying to work against the natural way of the universe, right? So when it comes to, when we first get on our entrepreneurial journey, you're going to consume a lot of podcasts, hopefully, and do that. Like take in all of that, like entrepreneurial hype you up energy, like you can do this, make it happen, right? But notice, right, how sometimes when you're just kind of rigidly in that ideology of making it happen, and I have to make it happen, it can cause just a lot more stress, strain, and sort of misdirection, right? Than sometimes just allowing things to happen a little bit, taking a step back, being a little bit more observant of the landscape around you before figuring out and deciding and paying attention to where feels like the best place to plant your business and when and how, right? So for so many years, every year I get this Wee Moon calendar. It's a multi-generational, beautiful little kind of earth-based traditional wisdom calendar, and it's written by a bunch of astrologers and witches. It's great. But for 2026, right, the theme is full circle, and I was reading, and Wu Wei was really like, I was like, yeah, this is what I'm teaching in many ways, or this is what it feels like, the way in business and money making, in the equitable way, right? And I read that for 2026, their prediction, what they offer was, whichever sign Pluto occupies, it brings evolution beyond the current paradigm. And Pluto is apparently occupying a lot in 2026. So anxiety over an unforeseen future is a waste of energy. Chinese philosophy teaches us the concept of Wu Wei, allowing action to happen through inaction. The future will reveal where our best actions belong, right? And so, if a part of you right now in this moment with so much going on out there is like hesitating or pausing, not yet clear on what your next move is, but simultaneously feeling the pressure to do something, to make money, to launch that business, I just want to affirm exactly where you are at. And there's a good chance that like a wiser part of you is in that observation mode, right? Taking in the landscape of kind of chaotic change and waiting for the shape of your opportunity to reveal itself rather than making it happen. How can you be in deep observation of what is happening and allow your business to be a solution within that landscape, right? Um, so you're not just barreling forward with some egotistical agenda, which is likely somebody else's version of what success looks like. I'm going to make, $200,000 in 2026, and that's that, right? Um, that's often, yeah, just some superficial or somebody else's version of what success looks like, that doesn't actually fit your terrain, right? And that intelligence, my friend, that pause that you might be feeling before going down that road, or even when you opt into programs and hype yourself up and you're like, okay, I'm really going to do it this time, and you still don't, I want you to flip, just invite, perhaps the opportunity here isn't to think that one day or one year you're just going to be different and you're going to wake up and all of a sudden have the energy to be an Instagram influencer to power your business forward. And instead, just pay attention, listen, and honor. Like, you know what? Maybe that ain't me. And maybe there's a shape of opportunity that can reveal itself when I actually allow myself to not do the things that I'm inherently, instinctually resisting, right? Okay. So, I know that we were just kind of metaphysical right there, and we still will continue to be, but I promise you we will also get pretty concrete here. So in just a moment, we're going to drop in and cover the top three mistakes that purpose-driven folks make, right? That keep us overworked and underpaid so that we can avoid them. The new money method, right? So yes, it is tough to cobble together the pathway that I've walked and that I've supported so many solopreneurs through as well, into a method, but by golly, we did it. And so I'm going to share with you an overview at what those steps are so that you can have a full map, right, of wherever you are right now and wherever you want to be and what the journey might look like to actually get there through a realistic and embodied and natural world attuned lens rather than kind of the hyper productive lens that most of us are constantly failing at. Um, and then also, I'm going to give you some clear instruction and invitation of if this is resonating with you, if this feels like the right type of medicine for your business, your life right now, how you can join New Money Social Club and benefit from having even more support and accountability on your business building and equitable money making journey. And also how to take advantage of that slide is wrong. It's a 60-minute one-on-one coaching session with me for free, which I will share the details for in just a minute. Okay, but first and foremost, who am I and why the hell should you maybe trust me? So I'm Eden, and I grew up working class in a post-industrial village of about 3,000 people in upstate New York, the cold part, not the cute part. It was economically, culturally, spiritually depleted, and from the time I was born, I kind of came out the womb like looking at the world sideways. I was like, oh, like this racism, inequality, environmental destruction is not my thing, right? All that said, even though that was the landscape, I was fortunate to grow up in a household that didn't have a ton of money, but we did have culture, we did have kindness, we did have community. And it was a sanctuary in a sea of closed-mindedness around us, right? And while I can't get behind the kind of dominant ideology of the broader culture that I grew up in, many things are true at the same time. And the truth is that my village also produced some of the most kind-hearted, salt of the earth people who will shovel your driveway before you ask, who will leave excess zucchinis and blueberries by the roadside in the summertime, and who remain some of my most solid friends to this day, right? Further, that culturally and spiritually depleted land that I grew up on, actually held immense cultural and ecological value. So I grew up on unceded Onondaga territory. The Onondaga are one of 6 nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. They are known as, outside of themselves, as the Iroquois Confederacy. So you might have heard that name before. That's not what they call themselves. But the Haudenosaunee are the oldest living participatory democracy on the face of the earth. And they shaped America's concept of democracy. They shaped the early suffragettes' concept of feminism. And of course, both of those facts are way underknown and undertold. And that's why I tell them and I share them. My relationships and my access to Haudenosaunee friends, culture, worldview, philosophy has shaped and continues to shape my approach to economics, to purpose, to business building, to money making, and to worth. And so I give thanks to them to start. Back to my household, right? So I grew up working class with poverty literally right next door and right across the street. My father in our household was the breadwinner. He managed chains of gas stations growing up, and although we have an amazing relationship now, he's one of my favorite humans on the planet. Growing up, he was always working or stressed about working. Right? He wasn't really there. Money was always the biggest source of stress in our household. My mother, on the other hand, she was the life force energy of the household. She did all the cooking, the nurturing, the child raising, the gardening, the healing, the house tending, the art making, the vibe sending, the community caretaking, all the most important stuff in life that isn't valued in dollars and cents in our society. She also worked all the odd jobs. She was a school bus driver, she was a waitress, she was a glass engraver, she was an engraver, she was a mail carrier, a florist, a farmer's market worker, a childcare provider, a holistic health practitioner. I knew and I know deep in my bones how vital and valuable her work is, but economically, I saw how disempowered she was. My father made the money, so he ultimately controlled the purse strings. Money was always tight, and every financial decision, whether to pay out of pocket for my brother's chiropractic work or for his severe scoliosis or splurging on organic produce in the 90s to try to nourish her kids the best way she knew how, had to pass through him. And so I saw this early dynamic everywhere I looked with my aunts, with some of my favorite people in the world. And it was if you want to do creative, nurturing, healing, good hearted, regenerative work in this world, you're never going to make any money at it, right? And your economic power is going to be rested precariously in the hands of probably a man or some breadwinner, right? Or you're going to have to become the breadwinner yourself, right? And if you want financial stability, you got to just swallow your purpose and your values, and you got to just put your head down and work and be practical and get a job that you can endure and be grateful for what you get. right? Be satisfied with the occasional annual trip to Disneyland or a cruise or something and the ability to maybe retire one day. Yeah, that is obviously not my path, and I'm sure not many of your paths as well. So the idea is that naturally I left home with this belief that money's got to be the root of all evil, because it's the source of all stress in this world. And if you want to do healing, creative work, you're going to be broke while doing it, right? So that was unsafe. So naturally, when I left for college, I studied English, Spanish, Black studies. I got into poetry, activism, learned from incredible Black Panther and Young Lord revolutionaries, and naturally landed in nonprofit work in Brooklyn for the next decade, as one would, working at an incredible arts-based youth program. Shout out to Project Safe. It was life-changing work, but like many nonprofits, didn't pay the bills, right? So when a friend from college offered me nanny work, I said yes. Growing up where I grew up, everybody learned how to take care of kids. I was like, oh, I've never called it nannying before. Sounds fancy. Got on the train to Soho, walked up into the nicest building I'd ever seen, walked into it, met my first doorman, took an elevator that opened directly into like a gorgeous penthouse apartment, and my whole life changed basically. I'd entered another level of existence, a world of wealth that nobody in my line had ever experienced before. And I, quickly became their primary nanny and then private chef. And for the next several years, I worked for wealthy families in New York and in the Hamptons, which was amazing pay. It was amazing to do nurturing work and get paid really well for it. But, ultimately you're a servant for the super wealthy. So I knew there was a limit on how long I could do that for. But here's what happened during that time that was really important for me and my money journey is that in the years that I spent portaling between those two realities, the haves and the have-nots, basically, because during the week I'd work with kids and communities that were experiencing, intergenerational poverty, and I would be living in Brooklyn with my social justice-oriented broke friends. But then on the weekends, I would take the train to the Hamptons and live a completely different lifestyle immersed in wealth, right? And portaling between those two worlds eventually forcibly dissolved a lot of the harsh binaries that I'd held about the two. The truth is that it's hard to believe that all rich people are greedy and money is the root of all evil when you're literally like helping raise little children and you genuinely actually love the family. When you're feeding multimillionaires, right? People I'd previously regarded as these shadowy figures, and you realize they're just people. Interesting. They're not necessarily smarter than me, not necessarily more evil than me either, just on a completely different trajectory and pipeline. And this just forcibly demystified a lot for me, right? Ultimately it left me with these like dual kind of conflicting desires. Like on one hand, I had developed a taste for like truffle cheese and natural wine and leisure and ocean views. But I had never been able to let go of my fierce need for activism, for actually doing work that felt like it mattered in this world, and fulfilling my soul's purpose, right? And I had no idea how to reconcile these two sort of dual desires. It felt kind of impossible. So I moved upstate. I moved back upstate. I got back into nonprofit racial justice work and food dignity work. And it was in my late 20s. And I found myself broke again, right? Doing deeply values forward work, but in a community where you win by being the most radical and broke. You couldn't have money or ease because who are you to eat up all that privilege? The only way to belong, essentially, was joining the cold, broke, miserable struggle with all your nonprofit friends, right? So around this time, I was growing a little tired of the nonprofit model. Don't get me wrong, there are some incredible nonprofits out there, but I'm a strategist, right? And I couldn't unsee the fact that we would write some big grant that was based on people's suffering. We would get the money, and then that money would be filtered through the hands of well-intentioned middle people like us. And barely any would actually reach the population that we were trying to serve. And I kept thinking, if that money just got to them directly, they'd have economic sovereignty. Like there would be real change here. But as my colleague, Jamila Sekiera, shared, they don't trust us with money. So I grew curious. Is it even possible to work outside of the nonprofit model, right? Is it possible to have a super values driven business and make good money at it, right? And I sat there at the altar of this question, and I still am here at the altar of this question. And what I can share with you today is that over the years, I have seen and experienced dozens of people who have proven that that is possible, right? And the way that we get there is ultimately at that moment, I just started saying yes to partnering with everybody around me who needed help, whether they were yoga teachers, farmers, herbalists, doulas, anybody who wanted a new website or social media work or money mindset work. I'm like, let me help. Let me figure out if this is possible. And ultimately, there was, one of my first stories and experiences that really proved to me that, whoa, this actually is possible, was my work with Amanda David of Rootwork Herbals, incredible Black woman herbalist who's been doing grassroots, underground, people's medicine work for 20 years at that point. A decolonized approach to herbalism. She was a mother of three, doing the most values forward work you can imagine. And, as you can imagine, as an herbalist, making basically no money. It was just a part of the bargain. If you're going to do this type of work, there's no way to make it profitable while maintaining your values. However, the two of us were very curious and determined to figure out if that was actually true. And so we strategized, right? Ultimately, we went through the exact steps that I now teach today in New Money Social Club because they've held up. So essentially, we got crystal clear about what she really needed to be making for life to feel sustainable, right? And she realized that she needs to be making about six figures a year, right? Which at the time felt laughable. It felt impossible. It was like 3 to 4 times more than what she had ever really been making in her business, right? But she was open. She was curious. We did a bunch of changes, new website, marketing strategy, all of that in a very values aligned way. And she really got to work on sort of loosening her grip on some of her longest held beliefs around money being the root of all evil, all of that. And as we loosen up the grip there, we can kind of have an open hand to catch some potential abundance and some of that potential. Is this even, what if this is possible? What if I can have beautiful, equitable, sustainable money flowing into this operation in a way that supports all of us, right? What if we can have money flow in a life-affirming way? And that's exactly what happened. So long story short, within a few years flat, she had reached and stepped into her sustainable six figures reality. And the truth is that because of the nature of the work that she does and the people that she's committed to doing it with, there's never been a moment where they've been free from systemic chaos, right? It's always been uncertain. However, there's a really solid foundation there that has allowed her to essentially grow her business, in her words, beyond her wildest dreams, and continue to do this work and show up and reach people from around the world and share this incredible work with the world in a sustainable way. All right. So when I saw that this was possible for Amanda, I started to believe maybe it could be possible for me, maybe it could be possible for others. And that's exactly what I did over the past, 12, 15 years. I partnered again with anybody who was down for it, right? I have a knack for partnering with folks who don't have websites, who are like so not into marketing whatsoever, who are very good at the IRL work and not so great at the URL work. I have a knack and a passion for making sure that their legacy, that their work is seen and shared and sustained for the long haul, right? So over the years, I've had the honor and pleasure of working with dozens of therapists, of coaches, of herbalists, of non-toxic living experts, of DEI practitioners, of holistic health practitioners, right? And while everybody's journey is, of course, their own and totally unique, one big departure that you will notice today and the way that I share these success stories and the social proof is I will not give you just one little one-dimensional snapshot of how somebody made six figures in 6 weeks and that's that. I try to offer some context so that you can sort of repattern your consciousness for what you can expect on this journey, right? Rather than always striving for some sort of empty, hollow screenshot of success that is showing up on your feed and you're wondering why that hasn't happened to you yet. I want to just share a little bit more of the nuance in the full story because everybody's story is so nuanced, right? And yours will be too. But the truth is that, I of course gained a lot of confidence in my work with Amanda, in my work with all these other solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. But ultimately, they're not outliers, right? This path isn't just for the privileged or the lucky, as I shared in the beginning. But just so y'all know, like purpose-driven businesses, B Corps are the most purpose-driven businesses, they are 63% more likely to survive economic downturns than traditional businesses, right? 78% of consumers prefer buying from purpose-driven brands. 77% of solopreneurs reported profitability in their first year, okay? So the idea, compared to only 54% of employer businesses. So, yeah, the idea is that it's actually like the data shows that your inclination to build your business in a purpose-driven way actually will be your competitive advantage, actually will be what allows your business to be resilient, especially during economic downturns, like maybe the one that we're in right now. All right, if everybody could just take a peek at their mute. So sorry, I tried to make sure we were muted. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Perfect. Okay, so just so we can kind of clearly see this, and little nuance here, I'm contrasting the old way with the new way, but the truth is that the new way is actually the old way. Because this way of being in terms of creating profitable, sustainable, life-affirming, values-aligned businesses, sorry, I'm just muting folks, is actually quite ancient, right? So, but just so we could see it, right? The old way, the conventional paradigm of how to build and grow a business, this is likely the what we've all sort of been exposed to. This has been the template of what we've seen that we've had to kind of measure up to, right? And this is conventional business building way. This is the old money way. This is the business as usual way. And that way is endless growth at all costs, right? So there's pressure to 10x your business, to scale to seven figures, to double your prices, while enoughness perpetually remains out of reach, right? You grind now, you celebrate later, but later never comes because the goalpost keeps moving, right? The old way, essentially the holy grail of success with an old way business model, which is actually, still purported by a lot of folks on your Instagram feed, I'm sure, is the passive income fallacy, right? So the holy grail of business building is to just build a funnel, to automate everything, and that way money can just flow in while you sleep. And you can let AI write your content, and you can replace your team, and the more tools you use, the less you have to do, and your business just becomes this machine that runs without you. And I get why that could sound appealing and why in our most vulnerable moments we might be like, oh, yes, please give me that. But you can also see how it might feel kind of remarkably similar to like some really toxic models of business models, if you want to call them, i.e., like slavery. But also the fact of the matter is that passive income, as any responsible entrepreneur who's actually out here making money will tell you, is not a thing. Okay. There's more passive income for sure. There's certainly ways to make sure that money is flowing in while you sleep in a more passive and scalable way. But to have something to be kind of reaching towards this holy grail of one day having your business just be totally passive. Unfortunately, even machines need upkeep. All right. And so I've built so many passive funnels, and I can tell you that none of them are actually passive unless you're like a total digital marketer wizard, and that's 100% what you do. The old way offers hyper productivity as a value, right? So batch content for 6 months, show up daily on 6 platforms, quantum leap your income in 90 days, launch 5 times a year. If you're not constantly producing, you are failing, right? The old way is individualistic, it's extractive. You are the guru, you are the boss babe, you are the CEO. You build a team so you can leverage your time and you outsource what you don't want to do. And success equals how much you can extract essentially from other people's labor. In the old way, limitations are seen as failure. You have a chronic health issue, you have a kid, you have a parent to take care of, you can't show up on video daily, I'm sorry, any of those things, like you must have, it's a failure, right? If you feel like, you're just not the type that can show up on video daily, then that's a visibility block. If you're not at six figures yet, you must have a money mindset issue. If you need time off, you must not be committed enough, right? And yeah, I'll get into a different way in a minute, but in that way of that Moss method way, right? Moss takes the shape of opportunity, right? And so the idea is that we thrive within limitations. So limitations are not failures, right? Like actually, when I had a kid, that was the first time that I was able to finally stop undercharging, when I was able to actually, I was kind of forced into charging more per hour spent in work with these limitations. We'll get more into that in a minute. Overnight success is hailed as the standard in the old way, right? So we should be at six figures in 6 weeks. We see Instagram screenshots of Stripe deposits. Everyone else, it seems, is scaling really fast. And so if you're not, there's something wrong with you or your business, right? And also in the old way, success is kind of looked at as this like pass fail exam, right? There's pressure to hit like a home run straight out the gate when you're first launching your business. And there's this belief that practice and performance and perfection will earn your right to success. Also, in the old way, we have excess is what success is, right? So inevitably, subconsciously, we are striving for multimillionairedom and billionairedom. Extreme excess equals safety and success, right? That's kind of the track that we're on if we don't hop off of it, right? And so, alternatively, this other way, this way that I've been walking and that so many solopreneurs that I've worked with over the years are also walking, and the way that likely your intuition has been telling you to walk to is the new way, the new money way, the Wu Wei, the Moss method way, if you will. And so this way prioritizes business growth alongside life, not instead of it, right? So you design your business around your actual life, your toddler's nap schedule, your chronic illness, your caregiving, your creative seasons, not the other way around, right? So your limitations become your competitive advantage. In the new way, passive income is a myth, but compounding is real, right? So everything takes energy. Every funnel needs nurturing. Every evergreen course needs updating. There's no set it and forget it, but there is work that compounds, right? So an email that you wrote 2 years ago that still brings in clients, right? A workshop that you taught once still gets recommended again and again and again, right? That one piece of content has actually served you for the entire year. That one masterclass actually serves you for the entire year. Compounding in ease, in value, in relationships, right? The new way, the Wu Wei, is bio-individual. So we don't find success by following anybody else's proven system. It just ain't gonna happen, right? We could definitely take some great tips, definitely leverage some great templates, but ultimately, your best marketing strategy, your business's most successful pathway forward is going to be a unique constellation of your strengths, your relationships, and what you actually have the energy to do, right? So if you're a great writer, but you hate talking, maybe you're into email marketing. Love in-person connection, perfect. Get into those local events and referrals, right? You build what works with your strengths, your network, and your energy. The new way moves at the speed of relationships. Okay. So business grows as relationships deepen, not through aggressive funnels where I'm just trying to get as many people to come into my business as quickly as possible. And many of them are going to cycle right on out of it because it's actually, I'm not giving my energy or my heart here. They're not actually getting any value here. But growth for growth's sake, I'm just going to keep on aiming to get more and more people in. Whereas, many people feel like, oh, I only have 100 Instagram followers. Like I have no audience. It's like, you don't need an audience to have a successful business. You don't need an audience to be making money. I can tell you right now, I know a lot of people with a whole lot of followers that aren't making a dime directly off of that followership. And I also know a whole lot of people that have had profitable, sustainable businesses for decades and don't have an Instagram account, right? most of us only need 10 to 20 clients at any given time or year, right? For our math to math. And so we move at the speed of relationships, and our relationships compound and deepen, and referrals become our main source of new business. In the new way, it's mutual flourishing, right? Your success, your stability is interdependent with your clients, your collaborators, your communities, and the planet. It all feels good. It's iterative and it's evolutionary, right? So Lao Tzu has a quote, and it's accept disgrace willingly in the Tao Te Ching, right? Accept disgrace willingly. He says, accept misfortune as the human condition. Accept being unimportant. Do not be concerned with loss or gain. And the idea is that if you're on this journey, my friends, there's going to be many, many moments where you feel like a total failure. There's going to be many, many moments where you are humbled beyond belief, where somebody comes in and, they had a bad experience and they give you a complaint, or they give you some really negative feedback, or they cancel their membership out of nowhere, or these are the inevitable things that happen, or we plan a big launch and nobody shows up for it. And so rather than putting all of our sense of self-worth, or the worth of our business in any particular action, and kind of letting ourselves be sort of swayed too much by the outcomes of any particular action. It's more about accepting this long game journey. And every time we have one of those deeply humbling, cleansed through the fires of ego death moments in our business, it's actually fortifying us and kind of composting us and compounding us into an even more powerful teacher or business owner, right? And so we're accepting these moments of hardship. We're not seeing them as failures. We're like, oh, this is actually informing the best version of myself and the best version of my business, right? Gay Hendricks, one of my teachers, offers business is ultimately a spiritual journey. And I promise you, if you aren't there yet, if you allow this to be, it can be just that. Okay, now I have two asterisks on these last two really important points because they're so important, I think, really defining about what this Wu Wei, new money way, way that you likely know in your bones is really all about, right? And the first is this concept that slow and steady wins the race, friends. This is actually like literally one of the most common mistakes that I think the vast majority of modern business builders make is we have a wildly unrealistic sense of how long it's going to take us to reach like a real sense of like financial sustainability. Okay. And we don't give ourselves enough time to figure it out. Every single business, it doesn't matter if it is the most perfect business model on paper in the world. Every single business, the moment you go to make that a reality, so it has real people and real money flowing through it, is going to be an inevitably humbling journey that we call product market fit. All right. So it just takes time to work itself out. And it's something that we only have partial control over. Businesses are ultimately relationships, right? And so we have to let other people uphold the other end of that relationship and see if they want it and see what they want and see how much they want it for and how they behave with it and how they work with it. And our business is the relationship between what lights us up and what they want to pay us money for. And that just takes a little bit of time to reveal itself. Right? And to really be like, okay, that's it. Now I know what it is. Now I know who I'm here for. Now I know who I'm here to serve. And now I can really have my marketing so dialed in that every action that I take is just pretty instantly, it works, right? And the only way we get there is from that compounding effect and that humbling process that takes at least a few months, but often at least a few years. You can see success. Hopefully you could see some progress quite quickly, right? Within a few months, right? But a big shift that people need to make is your metrics for success, because you're getting bombarded with these Instagram screenshots of I just made $10,000 overnight, or I had 100 people buy whatever. And the truth is that your first few months of launching your thing might look like I had 3 people buy. And most people would come to me and be like, oh, I only had 3 people buy my course at this launch. And it's like, we need to flip that whole thing on its head and celebrate the fact that 3 people bought something from you. That's an amazing, amazing first step. One of my other favorite teachers, Seth Godin offers, start with your tiniest possible audience, right? So the idea is that slow and steady wins the race, friends. And most of us just don't. We prematurely pivot. We give up too soon. We think, oh, this isn't working. Let me try some other shiny object, whatever. Maybe this will work better. And, while we should be open to allowing our business to reveal itself, all this pivoting and kind of bailing before we even actually give it the chance to see the light of day ain't helping us. All right. So, what if, right? Notice what happens in your body and your mind and your spirit when you release yourself and your business from the pressure of whatever arbitrary financial big leap that you had in your mind on a really tight timeline, likely, which likely came from somebody else's brag that they made, right? What happens if you actually release yourself from that and instead allow your business to unfold and reveal itself naturally over time? What if you relate with your little baby business seedling, right? As you would tend to a plant that you love, or like you would care for a baby that you're nurturing, rather than looking at it and being like, why won't you grow? There must be something wrong with you, right? You can feel how this energy will burn us out real quick, my friends. But if you are in loving, nurturing relationship and you have the patience and the realistic sense of how long this very well might take to actually become your full-time gig, the truth is even if it takes 6 years for you to get there, the way that we do things around here is we step into our purpose aligned work, and that is a North Star. That doesn't really change too much. And so the idea is that it's the type of work that you're going to want to be doing well into your elder years. It's the work that compounds on itself. So if it took you 6 years to get there, you get to spend the next 50 years of your life doing it and benefiting from that compounding value. It's worth the 4 or 5 years or whatever, right? 6 is extreme, but I'm just saying, give yourself that grace, and notice what happens instantly in your body, in the way that you relate with your business, the way that you relate with yourself, and therefore the way that you're going to relate with your clients, the way that you relate with marketing. The whole entire energy changes when you give yourself permission to hop off the highway. All right. Because it's an illusion anyway. It's not a real thing. The other very, very, very important asterisk, new way, Wu Wei. So the truth is like it is entirely possible to build a profitable, sustainable business doing what you love, doing values driven work, not burning yourself out. But we make a couple compromises here. Okay. And the truth is if you found yourself here, these likely aren't actually compromises. It's more of that owning and reclaiming what you already know to be true. But the idea is, yeah, from what I've seen, when you are growing slowly, when you're growing consciously, intentionally, and truly sustainably, and you're honoring your health while you're growing your business and all of that, your business is going to grow a little bit slower than somebody who's like, I got 80 hours a week. I'm going to do everything I possibly can and just hustle like as much as possible. Yes, I work with those entrepreneurs too. And yes, they experience way bigger growth swings way more quickly than us slow and steady types do. But they also, at least from what I've seen, are far more likely to burn out, right? And so we make this compromise and we make it willingly. And the other compromise that we make is what money looks like for us and what success looks like for us and what a successful business looks like for us, right? Because likely all of us have unconsciously inherited, like, what does success mean for you? Does it mean making $1 million? Does it mean making 6 figures? It's relative for all of us. And the truth is it's probably somebody else's projection of something, right? So in New Money Social Club, we start by giving you radical permission to reorient your entire business model and your entire business plan towards what your actual embodied financial requirements are, right? So not some number that somebody else said that looks successful or flashy or shiny, but literally what are your requirements for life to feel good? For all your bills to be paid, for your debts to be being paid off, for life to feel easeful enough. What is that number? And the truth is usually when we do the math on that, it is nowhere near the millions that we think that we need to be successful. Okay. So there's this invitation to radically reorient and drop into what I share as elegant sufficiency. And this is a term that I heard from Kate Raworth, who is the author of Donut Economics. And this is a term, again, that likely you're all familiar with in your blood and in your bones, right? Because it's the way that most of our ancestors have lived for millennia, right? So this elegant sufficiency, this is the Moss way, right? It's inspired by earth-based traditional cultures. It's inspired by France's culture of sobriety or sufficiency, not alcohol sobriety, but energy sobriety. They encourage people to, in terms of their energy usage levels, like in the city of Paris, they ask people to practice sobriety around that, consciousness around that, and kind of like respectful boundaries around that, right? It's also inspired by Sweden's concept of lagom, celebrating not too much, not too little, but just enough, right? Every culture has something like this. Every earth-based traditional culture has something like this. In my mom's culture, it was waste not, want not, right? You save that last little bit of carrot because who knows, maybe tomorrow morning we'll grate it and put it in some eggs or something, right? Frugality is brilliance and elegance. Sufficiency respects planetary and neighborly boundaries. It celebrates enoughness over excess, and it's not about endless growth, it's about sustainability. So, a radical invitation here is to just buck off the pressure to ever be a millionaire unless you want to be. And if that is your financial requirements, because money is relative, then I'm here for you and here to help you do the math on that. Done that before. No big deal. Money's relatives. Everybody's number is everybody's number. I just want you to be deeply in touch with what your number is from a real embodied place rather than some projection of what you think you should be aiming for. Okay, my friends, we're going to get into the three mistakes now that purpose-driven people make chronically. We're all on this journey together. It's not like a bad mistake, but just like highlighting it so that we're like, ooh, oh, okay, interesting. Hopefully it can reveal where some of your next work might be, right? So mistake number one is you're money avoidant, right? So you're avoiding thinking about, talking about, and charging money, right? This is the part that you kind of hate the most, right? You really love what you do. You love baking that sourdough bread. You love interacting with customers. You love the marketing. But when it comes to like asking people for, $10, because that's just how much the loaf is going to cost, you get squeamish. You avoid it at all costs. And so you're actually energetically, consistently avoiding money. And that, of course, doesn't just play out in here. It also plays out in your actual bank account, in your actual business as well, right? So and when I say avoiding money, we also usually purpose-driven people are also numbers avoidant, right? We just kind of avoid doing the math on what we really need to be charging here, how much money we really need to be making. If we're being honest, we kind of just cross our fingers and hope it works out, right? And it doesn't. We're chronically not making enough, right? And so we can see how the avoidance pathway doesn't actually work in business, right? So your business is also money avoidant. That's the cost. The cost is we stay broke, we stay stressed, we stay unclear, and our business never has the chance at becoming profitable or sustainable. The money part always feels tense and conflicted, and other people around us pick up on that. And ironically, because we can't sustain ourselves financially, we can't keep doing the work that we love to do, right? So it ultimately kills our entire business, right? And so I am that girl. I am tactless. I talk about money. I talk about money in all the conversations, and it is so déclassé. And I love that because if not talking about money is the old money way, I am all about talking about money in the new money way because the more that I talk about it, the more my relationship with it just equalizes, right? And I'm not money obsessed by any means. It is a part of the equation, right? And so that's my hope is that money isn't something to be worshipped. It's also not something to be afraid of. It's a tool, and my hope is that you can develop just a stoic and kind of equalized and equanimous relationship with money. Okay, so it's not some big monster that's like out to get you. It's not something to run away from. It's not something, yeah, but like it's just a part of how it works. It's just a part of what we need. Okay, mistake number two. You're doing too much, man. You're doing way too much. You're trying to do everything and you're not doing anything like particularly well, right? The truth is that a solid business plan requires focus and it requires clarity and it requires simplicity, right? And us purpose-driven, creative, heart-centered people, we got a lot of ideas. I promise you, I trust and I believe that at any given moment, you got like 18 different ideas in your head. You want to run a retreat, you want to do one-on-ones, you want to do a mastermind, you want to do whatever, right? And I love that for you. And my dear old friend Amanda, we share that quality. And I remember her saying, I think that's a sign of healthfulness. I think it's a good thing to have a lot of ideas, right? But when we try to sort of do them all at once, then of course we don't our business, the actual business model there that's ever going to ever give us that profitable, sustainable revenue, doesn't get the focus and the care that it needs to actually offer that to us, right? Because we're tending to like so many different things at the same time, right? So the cost is your business never becomes a real financially secure, sustainable career. You always are like about to launch something. You're always tinkering. You're always kind of waiting to feel ready. But meanwhile, you're likely working your ass off. You're scattered. You're giving a lot of energy away to so many different products for little to no money. And you're feeling a bit resentful and undervalued and overwhelmed and underseen and underappreciated for all of it, right? And so this is that blessing and a curse of being a creative person. In New Money Social Club, you join the crew here. But the idea is I walk you through a process that allows you to elucidate, like, number one, allow yourself to in your life and your relationship with your business to be one big ecosystem. So it's okay if there's a lot of different things coming in. Having diversified revenue streams is a sign of healthfulness. That's not a bad thing. But the idea is you can usually only build one thing well at a time. So there's a sequence to it. And there's also an opportunity to give yourself permission to not monetize every single creative thing in your life, right? So, for instance, I monetize my business. I show up to my business, and then in my free time, I do all types of things. I cook. I about to DJ a friend's wedding. I do so many things. I have so many. I'm very multi-passionate, and it's so beautiful when you release yourself from the pressure of having to think that you need to like monetize all of them or none of them, and literally have your business here that supports like one ecosystem of creative flow. The third mistake, my friends, is nobody knows you exist. This is like definitely one of the absolute top mistakes is that usually the people that are doing the most incredible, beautiful work in this world are so busy doing that work that they don't have the time, energy, wherewithal, or hunger to like market themselves all the time, right? And I feel you, right? So you're invisible because visibility feels a bit like selling out also because the ways that you see other people being visible, the way that you're seeing other people grow their businesses on Instagram, that sort of thing, you're like, ugh, it gives me the ick. I can't do that, right? And I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. This journey, which I love about marketing, is it makes us confront our cringiest parts. Right? And it makes us love up on them and get over ourselves, but also honor if we're just not the type who's ever going to feel comfortable making reels, all good, no big deal. There's so many other ways to be visible. And by the way, like 90% of the successful business owners that I work with do not get their money. Again, like I mentioned, they don't get their money from social media. They don't even need a social media account. They get their money and they get their new business from having an SEO optimized website. Or they get their money or they get their business from referrals. Or they get their money or they get their business from a nice Google business profile. So the idea is that there's likely a very strategic and easeful way for you and working with your strengths to successfully market your business. And you're not doing it because you think that it needs to look some other way, that you need to be an Instagram star or something, or you need to be super salesy. And so you're just avoiding that as well. And so you're not selling anything, right? When we sell more, right? That's why people do it. So if you're not making any money in your business, I ask you, when's the last time you tried to sell something? right? And that's usually the growth curve that we have to work with, right? So nobody knows you exist. Your ideal clients, they can't find you. The people who desperately need your work never get the chance to actually benefit from it. Your business never gets to come alive, never gets to be improved and informed by real clients flowing through it. And you never get to feel the catharsis of that resonance that happens when we actually share your unique POV with the world, right? So, those are the kind of mistakes, the things to like watch out for on this journey. And this is the clincher, the last one before I get into the new money method, right? And and this is yeah, this is a big one. So basically, what we're all hungry and desperate for is for to just be able to outsource this, right? To have somebody else like make our business successful for us. Maybe if I just invest in the right coach or if I invest in the right program, trust me, I've sold these programs, I've bought these programs, I've spent thousands of dollars on these programs because they're marketed so well. They catch us in this vulnerable moment and they're like, don't you just wish that you could have clients coming in effortlessly with, on repeat? And then you opt into the masterclass and then you get upsold into the multi-thousand-dollar program or whatever it is and you buy into it and then you're like, oh, okay, you get kind of fire hosed a lot of information and you realize I can't actually implement any of this and you're back at square one, right? And so the fundamental flaw that we keep making here is we often think that we can outsource our success in a way. Like we can hire somebody or some other expert to come in and make our business successful for us, right? But the truth is that your business success is going to come way quicker the moment that you accept the responsibility and the assignment, as imperfect and as, bad as you are with numbers or money or marketing or whatever. Stop telling yourself that narrative. Don't say those words out loud. And embrace that actually you are here as the business owner for a reason. Yes, you can leverage support from others, but ultimately you got to be the one who takes forward steps on this journey. And no person, program, system can ever automate that for you. Trust me, I've tried. My first several years, I am a chronic people pleaser and I am a chronic, like, I just want to help everybody. And so for many years, I tried to build people's businesses for them. I tried to basically do everything for them. And I realized that there's a limitation on that model. It will never actually be successful until they step into the driver's seat here. And so this is your invitation to step into that leadership role, right? So, and contextualize the role that a coach or any program could help you with. Because the truth is that most successful solopreneurs and entrepreneurs do have some sort of support, whether it is a mastermind that they're a part of, or a coach, or a program. Like that is a good thing to incorporate on your journey, to have a little bit of help, have a little bit of accountability, have a little bit of that frequency that you're kind of like able to align with and rise up to on a daily basis. Because if you're the only solopreneur in your social circle, chances are you're going to feel like a crazy one. You're going to get isolated, whatever. So we need to keep the energy up. That's how success will happen. But nobody else can do this for you, right? So here's what I could do for you, and here's what any coach could do for you, right? We could tell you, we could give you a map. We could say, hey, here's where you are right now. Here's where you want to be. Here's a rough map of likely what it's going to look like to get there. So you can, bypass a bunch of bullshit and not spend a bunch of money and do it in the most lean, optimized, aligned way, right? We can help with the map. I can help you know what gear you should invest in, right? I can help you understand, yeah, don't go with that platform because this and this and this is actually your most aligned system likely. I can give a ton of recommendations there. I can help you, and any coach or any other program can help you in those moments, right? Where you're like, oh my God, I just totally embarrassed myself, right? I put my first reel up and I am so cringing at myself and I offended somebody and I'm like about to burn this whole thing down. And these are these really important, vulnerable moments where it is so vital to have a permission-giving social circle who's affirming your business growth journey, who you can align with in those moments, right? But ultimately, right? No amount of preparation or investment. It doesn't matter how much money you pay. I've literally worked with people that have spent six figures on coaches, on programs that promise to automate you in a multi-million dollar business or whatever. And every single time, knocking on wood, tell me if you've ever found a program that actually completely automated your success for you, and I will change my narrative. But from what I've seen, that ain't possible. So you got to figure it out a little bit yourself. You got to be willing to be a little messy. You got to be willing to make some mistakes, and you can draw on support on that journey. Okay, so New Money Social Club. This is what I created and why I created it, right? So when I was building my business and I was feeling like a total weirdo who was a slowpoke and like not growing as fast as everybody else and not doing anything right, and I had all these blocks and blah 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 blah. I really wanted to be a part of a mastermind of values aligned people. I saw how the power of masterminds, for instance, I saw the power of coaches, but I couldn't afford them. Or when I got into them, I was like, yeah, you're not my people, right? So this isn't going to work. So New Money Social Club is what I created. This is our fourth year in New Money Social Club. So yeah, I this was many, many years of a seedling idea, and then it finally came into fruition about 4 years ago. And it's the space that I wish I had and the space that I love to have now, right? So it is a no bullshit, step-by-step, tried and true roadmap for launching your profitable, sustainable business as somebody who does this still, right? So I'm not just a coach, just a teacher. I don't just share with you what works for me. At least one third or to about half of my revenue comes from me working with clients actively, running their digital marketing strategies, helping them make more money in easeful and aligned ways. And so every single day, my sleeves are rolled up. I am actually utilizing every best strategy that you could find or be privy to, and I'm seeing how it works, right? And through that data, I'm distilling it down into, okay, here's an actual pathway that could work for somebody who is not a digital marketer, somebody who is a therapist. Here is a realistic strategy that could likely work for you when it comes to marketing, right? And I translate all of that into a real actual roadmap, which I'll walk you through in a second. And it is not just a living roadmap, step-by-step program, passive course that you're going to buy and you're going to, process and then not actually know how to implement. New Money Social Club is a club, right? So it's active. So it also includes two monthly live coaching sessions per month and also a Slack group. So you can be a part of a group of other purpose-aligned solopreneurs who are putting themselves out there, who are trying to grow their business, trying to work on their relationship with money, and it's in a values-aligned way, right? So this is what I've created. That shouldn't look like that. Whoops. Geez, that looked much better before I saved this. Sorry. But the new money method is broken into three parts, three steps, right? So the first step is heal your relationship with money. The new money method is the method, the roadmap that I teach, the course that you get upon joining New Money Social Club. So you can go through it on your own time. You can leverage as much or as little support as you want on that journey. Your process is your process, but it's basically broken down into three parts. The first step is heal your relationship with money. Second step, align your business model with your values. And the third step is market yourself with ease and authenticity. I'm going to quickly show you how they work together, mainly to get that slide off the screen. So step one, heal your relationship with money, right? So here's the thing. Businesses are just reflections of our beliefs and values at any given time. We can build them big, cushy, and abundant, or we can build them small, sacrificial, and unsustainable. And usually, most purpose-driven people build them like this, right? So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we believe things like money is the root of all evil, we'll have businesses that don't do the math on it, that don't prioritize profit, right? That avoid money. If we believe things like I'm just not good with money, then we will have businesses that outsource really important financial decisions, right? If we believe things like rich people are greedy, right? We will have businesses that turn away people who have money, right? Who want to pay us. If we believe things like nobody can afford it if I raise my prices, we will have businesses that ultimately don't charge enough for them to be actually sustainable. If we believe things like If I want to be successful, I'm going to have to work my ass off. Then we will have businesses, you best believe it, that are precariously balanced on our ability to consistently overwork, right? So you could see how all those little dark corner beliefs that we're kind of currently still holding our businesses like this. What's the word? Like like a projection on the other side of that, right? And so when we shift things internally, the business shifts as well. And the truth is that even if you have money, let's say you come from money, you're welcome here, we love you, or your business is making good money already, the truth is you can still have a very unhealthy relationship with money, right? For instance, a lot of people that I know who have a lot of money or whose businesses are making a lot of money, they're carrying beliefs like if I don't keep working at this pace, I'm going to lose it all. The more money that I make, the more money that I keep spending. I can't take a day off. There's too much at stake. The more I have, the more there is to lose, the more people are dependent on me, right? So you can see there's no end here. So the truth is, healing our relationship with money is an ongoing process. Obviously, we've all inherited many lifetimes of some kind of messed up relationships with money. Not our fault, right? Money trauma runs deep. Class travel is real, and each level of wealth will unlock a new set of issues to unpack. For instance, if you right now aren't making much money in your business, but just like a little bit of fun side hustle money, that's cute. We love it, right? But guess what happens when you actually start making enough money to where you need to like start paying some taxes, or you risk being in a different bracket and your health, your health insurance shifts, right? These are very real things that come up at each level of the journey, right? And so every single level of wealth will unlock a new set of issues to unpack. So how do we heal our relationship with money? It's kind of like any other holistic journey, to be completely honest with you. But over my lifetime, I have been really fascinated with this equitable money making topic, and I have read every book that was the most values, like had that values alignment filter on money, on money making, on business building. And I'm a trauma of money facilitator. Trauma of Money is an incredible, beautiful program started by Chantel Chapman. Anyway, how we do it over the years, I've gathered the game changing like sequential lessons that really, really worked for me and that I come back to and that work for my clients. And that is what is in New Money Social Club, is a curated process basically of healing your relationship intentionally with money. So, yes, we unearth our earliest stories about money. We examine our beliefs, behaviors, identities, and values. We adopt new values aligned stories. We create a weekly money counting ritual. We repattern towards abundance. We step into our zone of genius so we can work less and earn more. We align our pricing with our values and our financial requirements. And we create, ultimately, the output is we create a profitable, sustainable business model that, at least on paper, works before we even really put it out there. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And I promise you, because this is true for me too, my unconscious beliefs about money are currently being projected onto my business and guiding and limiting its growth. Of course, there's systemic inequities and all of these other challenges that also impact it. So I'm not totally spiritually bypassing here, but and also you will know and learn that this is just a huge site of richness to tend to. And consider tending to it every day, maybe for the rest of your life. And the more that you do that, the more money you're going to make. All right. That's what Paula did. Polly Juanite is just one of my, I just love this quote. And I just love the shape that she's taken as one of the most values-driven people I've ever met in my life. Like one of the most activist-y types you could ever meet, who was so practiced at asking for the very least, at making kind of just enough to get by and giving like a massive amount of energy towards the world every day. She said, Eden was pivotal in helping me see that I could run my business without stomping on my desire to put people over profits. She ushered me with grace to a place where I no longer felt the need to diminish my worth in order to help others. It reframed my business mindset to one where it was possible to have abundance all around for myself and my clients, and it was life-changing. And gosh, man, I want every single one of you to also feel like you are just living a life that feels easeful and abundant. Yeah, and it is possible for you. If you want that for yourself, it is absolutely possible for you. Okay. Um, this second step, Align your business model with your values. This one's crucial. When I say values, I mean your ethical values, your financial and energetic values, and in business, we talk about your unique value proposition, your ideal client avatar, and your minimum viable or valuable product, right? So this step, after we kind of go through the foundational healing your relationship with money stuff, now you are in a place where you can actually create a profitable, sustainable business model because you've cleared out some of that money baggage that was previously blocking your best business model, right? And we intentionally align it with our conscious and unconscious values. So it's a huge, real game changer here. But basically, you need to have a really powerful story in your head every day of what gets you out of bed and what allows you to show up into your work, especially the more that this, world gets more chaotic and triggering and awful, right? You need a really powerful story to wake up every day and prioritize your business, your money making, right? In a way that doesn't like cut you off from the suffering of the world, but actually allows your work that you're pouring into your business as your devotion to the world that you want to call in, right? So it doesn't avoid what's happening. It actually is a way to be like filled with this incredible energy to actually fulfill all of these things because it all feels so aligned with your highest values, right? So yes, we have a systematic way of doing this, and we do it in New Money Social Club and the New Money Method. I call it the essential sequential steps. So no bullshit, nothing more, nothing less, but what is really, really needed for the light bulb to turn on in your business. And here's really where we get into your unique value proposition, your ideal client avatar, and your minimum viable product. And we unearth that thread and that relationship between what lights you up and what the world needs. And we set the financial and energetic parameters to do it sustainably. And we create an actual business model. And once we have that, now it is time to go to market. Even if you already have a business, we're going to run it through this to optimize it, right? This is what Kristen did. So Kristen Cabildo is the founder of Chrysalis Kali, longtime member and dear friend inside of New Money Social Club, one of my favorite, most badass warrior humans alive right now. Who, when she came to New Money Social Club, she was carrying this seed of a dream for an online dojo with her for years. And she was doing a lot of grassroots, decolonized Filipino martial arts, which is called Kali, work with a community on the ground in New York City. And she was doing a lot of that stuff just kind of out of the love of her heart, her own personal spiritual evolution and development and personal training practice. But she wanted to find a way to allow it to be her work, the work that she was getting paid for. And so she built through New Money Social Club, she built her first course, which then parlayed itself into her first membership, which she is running and thriving within to this day. And it's becoming more and more of a primary revenue stream in her business. And so she says, it's always easier to transform and grow when others are journeying with you. I so appreciated the guidance and support from both Eden and other New Money Social Club members in building my business. New Money Social Club is the perfect blend of education, coaching, accountability, and inspiration. I love Kristen because she and I both are not really like group types as much. Like we're pretty independent. Like I could, do this stuff on my own. But the thing that I love and I feel and I benefit from in this space and the power of a mastermind is there's this like nervous system permission giving that happens that gets unlocked when you are in a group with other people and you see them putting themselves out there. You see them being deeply values aligned and still raising their rates. And it just gives your nervous system a permission that you could never get on your own just through processing, a lesson passively. You don't even have to be active in the community. Literally just to the act of feeling like you're remotely, ethereally a part of this type of community is a game changer in and of itself. And that's a lot of what I think unlocked with Kristen, but also at every step of the way, there's templates and strategy. And that's the step-by-step roadmap that she followed. Okay. Finally, step 3 is market yourself with ease and authenticity. So the idea is like when we heal our relationship with money, when our business model is actually solid to the point where we're ready to send people into it, right? Having all that clarity makes the marketing way easier, right? Because the idea is that without that clarity that we get through steps one and step through, marketing is a mess because we're just trying to be everywhere at once and we don't succeed at every one thing. Our messaging ultimately falls flat, misses, or turns off potential clients because we're not super dialed in on that alignment between our unique value proposition, our ideal client, and our minimum viable product. We feel drained by the process. We hate it, and therefore we bail and don't continue. We do fits and spurts. I'm going to post on Instagram like twice and then give up for the next 6 months, right? We spend way too much time on stupid little marketing actions that don't actually move our bottom line. And we're in our heads and feeling in constant like turmoil, held back by imposter syndrome and fear of being seen. And again, staying invisible, right? And so in New Money Social Club, one, you get that nervous system permission, which unlocks your ability to start marketing in a way that nothing else can. Another way that we set you up for success here and allow you to actually like finally feel comfortable marketing yourself or your business is rather than copying anybody else's system, we take that bio-individual approach. So we look at your strengths, your networks. Not a video person? Cool, cool, cool. Long form writer? Amazing. Let's strategize there, right? And you come up with your bio-individual marketing strategy because that's ultimately what is going to bring you towards your highest success. And ultimately, when it comes to marketing, the truth is there are a lot of awesome templates that you can use that are sales psychology infused, that are respectful, that are ethical, that don't make you feel icky, but actually allow you to just drift off of the work that digital marketers like myself have learned already. Okay, here is just a rough template for if you're going to go the Instagram route, right? Here's a rough template for what will likely work in terms of the overall arc, right? Make it your own, totally make it your own. But ultimately, we have templates for, how to write a more compelling email subject line. We have templates for how to actually drive a bunch of sales through a 7-day email sequence, right? Tons of templates inside of New Money Social Club. And ultimately, that's what Rachel did. So Rachel is the founder of Plum Ripples. She's a somatic coach and astrologer and like amazing, and joined New Money Social Club and had virtually no presence. And I just love her content, love her work that she's doing. She said it was like a breath of fresh air. I was on the verge of taking steps towards starting a business, but was feeling hesitant about how to do it in a way that felt ethical and aligned with my values. I had a lot of questions around how to even set up a business that could be sustainable and profitable. I didn't know where to start with finding future clients, had a lot of fears around visibility, around putting myself out there and sharing ideas publicly. I immediately connected with Eden's way of explaining marketing and business concepts that felt practical, doable, and motivating, especially knowing that it comes from a deep place of integrity and sincerity. New Money Social Club speaks to the heart of wanting to create and sustain a business that wants everyone to flourish and thrive, all starting with you. Being a part of New Money Social Club has allowed me to move past a lot of the blocks that I had around visibility by stepping out, sharing my work, dispelling a lot of ideas I had about money and accessibility, and showed me the possibilities for what I wanted to create and gave me the clarity on what is needed in terms of the next steps of my business. I really feel differently about marketing now, a huge part thanks to New Money Social Club. All right? We love it. Yeah, tons of awesome wins. So many beautiful business babies have been born through New Money Social Club. And the best part is that most of them are alive and well even today, right? So it wasn't just some one-off win. It was like, oh, this is in many ways my life's work. And I have the sort of foundation that I've just laid for that. And now it's growing into something very, very real. So many launches have been born through New Money Social Club, so many courses, so many successful memberships. And yeah, it is a beautiful, beautiful field to be in. So if this is resonating with you, my friends, if 2026 is like, I'm ready to get in on that fire horse energy, I'm ready to make some real moves in my business, but I also don't want to recreate the same cycles of like, I got a lot of energy and I'm going to set myself up for failure and I'm actually ultimately going to end up back in square one this time next year. Like, don't do that, right? Allow that energy to flow into you right now, allow that excitement to flow into you right now, and set yourself up with the conditions to do it sustainably, okay? And if that is your vibe, here is a bird's eye view of what you get when you join New Money Social Club. So the three things that you get access to, the three components. Number one is the New Money Method course, right? That's that step-by-step roadmap. Step one, heal your relationship with money. Step two, align your business model with your values. Step three, market yourself with ease and authenticity. So you get immediate access to that course. You can kind of go through at your own pace. You get immediate access to live business coaching. So twice a month, we have live business coaching sessions and micro lessons that just keep your inspiration flowing and allow you to drop in and bring anything to the group, to me, and receive that thought partnership and support. And you also get access to our Slack group. Slack is it's an app, it's a workplace communication tool that I found just to be far more intuitive for this use. And so, yeah, so you can post anything, you can share wins, you can ask for support. I am on there directly, there's no outsourcing. And so, yeah, you get access to me over there as well. Um, and so, yeah, I mentioned about Slack. You get the membership, and you get to ask for my personalized kind of support as you go. For instance, hey, I just made this flyer. What do you think about it? Do you have any suggestions? Like I can review little things, give you direct, like actionable advice. I can, yeah, help you think through your pricing. I can help you think through any of this stuff in Slack as well. You also get access to a amazing resource library that we just redesigned actually in Google Drive to make it as accessible and usable as possible. And so these are just game-changing templates, resources. It's like somebody just was like, this is like a Bible of money and mindset and marketing and business building gold. So it covers everything from like, should I have an LLC or a sole proprietorship, or I'm about to buy my first website or domain, what should I call it? Like all of that marketing to all of it is in there. And you know what else is crazy, right? Uh, I actually allow you to cancel anytime, right? So while, especially the offer that I'm gonna, present to you in a second, I encourage you to think about at least a 3-month commitment. The truth is if you're not getting a ton of value in this space, then I'm not either. And so I have a very generous cancellation policy in that you can cancel anytime. No big deal. All right. And so the offer that I have is for the first 10 folks, if you're feeling the call, feeling the vibe, and you're ready to join New Money Social Club for $97 a month, right? No long-term commitment. You get access to a free 60-minute one-on-one coaching session with me to help you kick off your journey in a really, really robust and clear way, right? That's like it's like a $375 value, yours free, just by taking action sooner rather than later, right? So we officially kick off our next season of New Money Social Club next week. And so you have a little bit of time to think about it, but if you're feeling the vibe, I encourage you to pay attention to that and go ahead and book. I'm going to go ahead and just drop the link to the website in the chat if it resonates with you. So you can take that action and secure your free one-on-one 60-minute coaching session right now. So just some final affirmations here. I really loved this little Slack message as well. There's so many things I could say. This was from a beloved somatic therapist. Bottom line, my business wouldn't be where it is today without Eden. In 1 year's time, I have completely transformed a story I'd been stuck in for years. Eden's new money method was the only way for me. I needed both a smart, firm, strategic presence and a gentle permission to pause and sense into my authentic truth as a new entrepreneur who also craves a life worth living. Eden is the whole package. I do what I can. But really, ultimately, so much of the magic is just in this group format. And of course, drifting off of the wisdom from these ancient traditions. Okay, my friends. So just to give you another peek at kind of the level of back and forth that I give with folks on Slack, and some of the wins and the reflections of how this space is valuable to a lot of the people in New Money Social Club. Just sharing a couple final screenshots. no matter what you do, my hope is that you feel a sense of empowerment, that you feel a sense of hope, that you feel a sense of courage in that this is possible, whatever dream seed of a business idea you have inside of you, that it is entirely possible, and we just need to do the math on it. We need to kind of work at those levels that was sharing and that are, of course, shared explicitly in New Money Social Club. But it's entirely possible, right? And not only possible, but I believe it is our duty, our responsibility in co-creating a world that we actually believe in, right? To set ourselves up to do this work sustainably, right? To set the financial and energetic conditions to actually allow this work to come through us that wants to come through us, and do it in a way that's sustainable, in a way that won't burn us out, in a way that doesn't abuse others or the environment. And all of that is possible in that mutually flourishing model. So yeah, my hope and my prayer is that you give yourself permission now more than ever as the systemic chaos ramps up, invitation to focus in and down on your own business and making sanctuary for yourself, for your family, for your community, for the people that you're here to serve. Ultimately, little people doing little efforts is the only way that the world has ever changed. There's a much better quote about that. But yeah, give yourself full permission to focus on your business and take it